And what has been sufficiently demonstrated in human history and in our own recent national history or trajectory is that the socio-economic and political fortunes of a people often hang peremptorily on the integrity or lack of integrity of its leaders. Where there is moral integrity among the ruling class, the people make economic progress and experience stability and peace. But where the leaders are illegitimate, where the leaders are corrupt, where the leaders are unjust, immoral, and lacking in credibility, the people suffer economic stagnation, social discord, and eventual collapse. As we gather here once again for one more dialogue session on the challenge of national development, I wish to remind the respected jurists and lawyers and senior patriots and elder statesmen and women, political scientists, governance experts, as well as civil society activists that are participating in this gathering, that nations are built fundamentally on values. I repeat, nations are built fundamentally on values, not on the quality of political or structural blueprints embraced, nor on the abundance of natural resources, as indeed post-independence Nigeria's experiment has sufficiently demonstrated. Nation building refers to the internal, organic, and dynamic process by which a society identifies, discusses, contests, and reaches consensus on shared values, principles, and norms. The process by which a society galvanizes a sense of national cohesion, consolidates a national identity, and forges a sense of common purpose or a set of common goals to which the society is oriented. In other words, nation building is the process of molding diverse groups into a unified, cohesive, harmonious, and stable national entity with shared vision and collective mission. Essential and critical importance in the process of nation building is a transparently honest, visionary, self-sacrificing, and therefore legitimate and credible leadership. Such leadership assumes the role of architects, engineers, and project managers of the emerging nation. Thus, strong, stable, unified, and prosperous nations are built fundamentally on values. And experience has shown that such values are anchored on and sustained by leaders of transparent integrity and credibility, whose very lives encapsulate and personify the values that they seek to propagate in the polity. Any nation that is going to become something must be gifted with the kind of leaders that encapsulate in their very selves and in their lives the values that they seek to propagate in the wider society. I mean, we have examples like that in Lee Kuan Yew's Singapore, where he lived out the kind of values that he eventually propagated in the society. If those values are to take root in society, then they must first be seen in the leaders. That is how fathers of nations or mothers of nations are birthed. When, however, such critical values for nation buildings as leadership integrity, justice and fairness, as well as high degree of patriotism and sacrifice for the common good, when such values are missing, what we often have is a free-for-all, as is indeed the case today in Nigeria. Free-for-all, intractable conflicts, political tension, social discord, the preponderance of violent crimes, monumental corruption, widespread impunity. Indeed, 4th century philosopher St. Augustine of Hippo declared that kingdoms or societies devoid of justice are nothing but a bunch of bandits and a gang of robbers. Kingdoms or societies devoid of justice, are nothing but a bunch of bandits or a gang of robbers. What the foregoing implies is that as we engage in one more dialogue event on the plight of our youth population amid the challenges of national development, we must pay close attention to the reality of widespread moral vacuity among the political, economic, religious, and socio-cultural elite of our nation that have scandalized our youth population. The moral vacuity among the political, economic, religious, and socio-cultural elite of our nation, they have combined to scandalize the youth population and, as it were, rewired their brains, to borrow the expression of Jonathan Haidt, who has written about the great rewiring of the brain of the Gen Z people, that the scandal caused by the elite population of Nigeria has rewired the brains of our young people towards the elevation of primitive greed over a life of meaning, towards the enthronement of vanity and vainglory over a life of purpose, and towards the proliferation of corruption, criminality, and gangsterism in place of a culture of honesty and integrity. As we engage in one more dialogue session on the future of the Nigerian nation, I ask that we pay attention to and address very critically the embarrassment of what I call the naked public square in Nigeria. The naked public square whereby criminally minded characters and alleged gangsters in our midst are more easily finding their way to all levels of political office than men and women of honor, integrity, discipline, modesty, patriotism, and sacrifice. Yes, as we engage in one more dialogue on the future of Nigeria and our youth population, I ask that we seriously interrogate the situation whereby our nation more easily throws up for political office crooked and devious characters, including ethnic bigots and religious extremists, those who regularly manipulate the religious sentiments of the people, those who recklessly exploit the age-old ethnic criminal antipathies in the land for selfish political gain, and the thoughtless others who habitually loot the local government, the state or national treasury for themselves and their families, and render the population destitute. Until we address this anomaly, this fundamental error in our concept of political leadership and the leadership recruitment process, I do not believe that any effort we make now will transform our fortunes. Many will agree with me that the Nigerian nation is sadly comatose as we speak and on the verge of disintegration, largely on account of the successive generation of thoughtlessly corrupt, senselessly nepotistic, recklessly lawless, and astonishingly incompetent elite class that we have been plagued with since independence, and particularly since the first coup of 1966. Though there are a few exceptions, a few positive indications here and there, the conduct of the younger generation today does not particularly inspire hope in the immediate future. See where we have put ourselves today. For while the rest of the world is competing in digital technology and flying high at jet speed in business and economics, and while some others are exploring the outer space and working hard towards colonizing other planets, the citizens of our own country are standing still, weighed down by the vestiges of a profligate past and a confused or clueless present that is superintended by a regime of arrogance that is largely born of culpable ignorance. After nearly 64 years of independence, Nigerians are filled with regret and nostalgia about broken dreams, broken promises, dashed hopes, and shallow dreams of a land of unity, peace, and prosperity. For many of us, the story of Nigeria is that of a paradise lost, It is a story of the fathers having eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth being on edge, or the case of the mothers having sown the wind and the children harvesting the whirlwind. It is said that a society grows great when elders and leaders plant trees under whose shade they know they will never sit. The embarrassing truth we must acknowledge today, however, is that many of us who qualify to be called elders, many of us who constitute today's political, economic, social, and religious elite have over the years been largely blind guides, greedy opportunists, wicked fathers, and callous mothers who have shamelessly and unrepentantly stolen food off the hands of their own children. Our successive military rulers and political overlords have often exploited the poverty and arrogance of the majority of our people and cashed in on the existing ethno-religious antipathies and polarities for blind and selfish political and economic ambition. The perpetuation of the culture of impunity, the lifestyle of crass materialism, attended by greed and graft, the resort to instant gratification, the heightened indiscipline, the widespread celebration of sensual perversion, and the normalization of sexual aberrations that used to be considered abominable by previous generations, among many in the upcoming generation, meaning the youth population of the Nigerian elite class, those we call leaders of tomorrow, these are not good indications of any major transformation to be expected in our society in the next few years. No society in which these aberrations thrive can expect a wholesome future, and individuals who operate along these destructive lines cannot possibly find lasting happiness, wholesome development, or peace. Over the last 64 years, as we, the leaders, the parents, the teachers, and the preachers become more enterprising in greed and political mischief, and as we failed to inspire the young people in the pursuit of higher values, we lost control of the younger generation. Many of our graduates from secondary schools, our graduates from universities and polytechnics, became social deviants, internet fraudsters, sexual perverts, drug addicts, criminal kidnappers, murderous bandits, and terrorist insurgents, constituting an embarrassment in our homes, constituting a nightmare in our schools, and constituting a nuisance in our offices. With juvenile bravado, many of these young people have been visiting their vengeance on an adult society that has failed to give them a sense of direction. They have gone about cheating and stealing, robbing and raping, and killing and maiming, and they have often committed these crimes with the sophistication of the Italian mafioso. Thus, I reason that the collective psyche of our young people has been so seriously wounded, and their delicate consciences have been so brutally battered by the atrocities of the adult society that we now stand the chance of losing tomorrow altogether. Our fear is heightened by the number of delinquent juveniles who are daily paraded on TV by Nigerian security agencies as suspected assassins, armed robbers, kidnappers, bandits, and insurgents. It is amazing how many Nigerians often discuss and lament the rising crime rate among our youths in the country without taking into cognizance the acrimonious socio-economic and political circumstances that gave birth to the phenomenon we are now having to contend with. I mean, many of us, with a sense of self-righteousness, we discuss the criminality in society and how terrible our young people are, and we do not take a look at ourselves and the kind of life we have lived, the kind of example we have given to our youth. We have engaged in a life of debauchery. Like the prodigal son in the parable of Jesus, we have left our palace of pride to dwell in a pit of shame. We have often thrown decency and integrity to the dogs and flushed justice and truth into the septic tank. We have often violated love and trampled on the poor and the weak. We have enthroned bribery and corruption and elevated the menace to such a high statecraft that government business can almost not happen without corruption. I live in Abuja, and I can say that government business cannot happen in 90% of places without corruption. We have badly neglected our educational institutions and made our teachers an object of ridicule in the eyes of society. Our schools and colleges, in turn, have lost their sacred character as formation centers, and they have rather become breeding grounds for thieves, thugs, touts, secret cultists, gangsters, rapists, and prostitutes. We hear these days of school children beating up their teachers, sacking their principals, and burning up their libraries. Examination malpractice in some of our schools has now assumed a frightening dimension whereby teachers and principals organize cheating at external examinations, and parents annually contribute money to settle, quote unquote, settle supervisors and invigilators. How bad can things get in Nigeria? My own reflection is that we are about to lose many more millions of our young people whose teeth are on edge, as it were, because their fathers have eaten sour grapes. We are about to lose millions of young people who are constipated because their mothers have eaten the forbidden fruit. Our young people, like their peers elsewhere, are blessed with numerous talents. They are full of energy and ingenuity, but they lack the necessary pride in their fatherland. Yes, our youths are highly resourceful and creative. Those that are outside are doing very well, but they are often devoid of any sense of purpose, meaning, and direction. Our children have not been adequately parented. They have not been adequately taught, or have they seen practical examples of truth and justice, love and compassion, sacrifice and patriotism enough to motivate them. When our young people see the hypocrisy of the adult society, they convince themselves that there is no truth or justice in the world. They make up their mind that there is no such thing as love and compassion. They conclude that the world is one big jungle, largely inspired by the principle of mutual exploitation and often governed by the law of the survival of the fittest and the triumph of the valiant. Even more distressing is the fact that our young people seem to have lost hope, and this is the greatest danger. I reason that it is the absence of hope amid hardship that has led many of these young people, young unemployed and unemployable people, into some of the most terrible behaviors that we witness today. When we see our young people becoming beastly in hate, ruthless in violence, and reckless in destruction, we do not need prophets and soothsayers to tell us why. The progressive degeneration of our national landscape in the last 61 years is a commentary on the quality of life that many of us in the adult generation have lived. We of the adult generation must now own up before our children, before our young people, that we have betrayed our fatherland and failed to lay the necessary foundation for a prosperous future. We must own up to the fact that we have often stolen food off the hands of our children. Each one of us is guilty to the extent that we have contributed in some way to the mess of the moment by our corrupt and selfish lifestyle. As parents, as teachers, as preachers, as elders, we have often failed to inspire our young people to live a life of righteousness. As leaders and elders, we have often failed to be beacons of light. Instead, we have often been a source of scandal for our own children and the children of our country. Yes, in the past, we have seen and unfortunately, we continue to see today too many leaders and elders that are habitual liars, violators of truth, outright liars. Leaders and elders in this country have over and over again sacrificed truth and integrity on the altar of greed and in exchange for the lust for power. There is serious work to be done by all of us who belong to the adult society in Nigeria. If we are not to kill tomorrow before today's sun sets, yes, if we are not to kill tomorrow before today's sun sets, those of us in the adult generation have a lot of work to do. Those who seek to bestow hope on the coming generation must recommit themselves to such values that make for nation building as truth and honesty, justice and equity. I am sitting down and I'm watching a number of lawyers here and jurists and so on. In the last few years, technicalities have been used to destroy justice in this country. I mean, we can see the truth very clearly, but smart lawyers will use technicalities to destroy justice. And Nigerians are watching, and the judiciary and the bar are losing respect before many Nigerians because we can see what justice is in particular cases and how they use their intelligence to use technicalities to destroy justice. And 2015, I had the opportunity of speaking to the Nigerian Bar Association, where I said the purpose of law is the attainment of justice in the society. And if law is now used to promote injustice, then that society is going down. In the past few years, we have seen that too many Nigerian leaders do not deserve to be in positions of leadership. So those of us who desire to see better Nigeria, we must begin to do something. Those who believe in God, those who believe that the situation may be bad enough but not hopeless, we have to begin to work towards rejuvenation. If today we begin to retrace our steps and get back to the basics, we should believe that from the rubbles of our shattered motherland, a rich, powerful, peaceful, united country can emerge if we identify and get rid of the demons that have bewitched this land since independence. Those who seek to bestow hope on the coming generation must commit themselves to the life of truth, justice, and righteousness. Parents must be ready to make sacrifices for the sake of their children. Teachers must recognize that they teach more by their lives than by their lessons. The world has too many teachers and preachers. What our young people need today are living witnesses to love, compassion, truth, and justice. We talk too much about truth, justice, and fairness. What young people need instead is to see this truth, this honesty, this justice, this fairness at work in the family setting, in the conduct of the school activities, in the government activities, in the courts of law, and so on. We need to see this truth and justice in the civil service, in the award and execution of contracts, and in such processes of governance as the just and equitable distribution of opportunities, as well as application of sanctions. Young people are constantly let down and disappointed when their leaders are fraudulent or when they see teachers assisting unscrupulous students to cheat at examinations. Young people are shocked, champion the all-important project of youth formation for national rejuvenation. Youth formation for national rejuvenation. In an age and in an environment where material power and status are pursued with religious passion and where wealth is made into an idol, an age and an environment where many are plagued by a social pathology that has come to be known as acute celebrity syndrome, by which the cover page girl, the beauty queen, the movie star, the social media influencer, the comedian, the sports and music legend, and the social deviants who win big money at reality shows. These people are elevated, adored, and worshipped like deities. The task of nurturing the youth for effective, purposeful, and selfless leadership in this kind of environment is arduous indeed. It is going to be very challenging. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to say to you that the challenge of re-engineering society and effecting a paradigm shift in our social orientation and value prioritization lies squarely on the shoulders of those of us who are sufficiently dissatisfied with the quality of existence of Nigeria today. Those of us who have refused to give up on our corporate existence. Those of us who accept the call to take responsibility for the future, we must now step forward from the madding crowd and be counted on the side of reason. We who belong to the elite class have often been prime beneficiaries as well as victims of the theater of the absurd that is the Nigerian enterprise of today. The succession of criminal gangs that over the years have senselessly conspired to crush the Nigerian dream, to plunder the Nigerian landscape, and to devour the Nigerian people have often emerged from the same class as ourselves. Participants at this webinar and others of goodwill must rise up today and be counted on at this critical point in our history. We must rise up to be counted. We must take seriously the words of Brutus in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar when he declared, "There is a tide in the affairs of men which taken at the flood leads unto fortune. Omitted, all the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat. And we must take the current when it serves or lose our ventures." I call on you, friends, brothers and sisters, to think of investing heavily in the formation of the youth population for national rejuvenation, in the formation of the youth population for the kind of values that will make for a life of meaning and purpose. Our young people in this country must be taught that a better Nigeria is possible and that they must begin to work towards it today. Our young people must be taught to shun crass materialism and shameless consumerism and blind pleasure, which have become the dominant preoccupation of the youth population. Young people must be taught that they will never achieve their full potential in life if they allow the unruly passions of the flesh to overwhelm and enslave them. They must be taught that instead of seeking escape in the plastic wings of sensual pleasure, the stupefaction of hard drugs and alcohol, and the vanity and vainglory daily offered by celebrities on social media, they must invest their youth in the quest for solid qualitative education, for real power is attained through the acquisition of knowledge in a knowledge economy. If today we begin seriously to help the Nigerian youth shape their lives along the path of deferred gratification instead of instant gratification that is now the order of the day, then the future may still be salvaged. Then tomorrow may not be lost after all. Election by proposing that Nigerian youths, along with those of us who are ready to assume responsibility for the future, we should learn the following pledges by heart and recite them daily until we come about the new Nigeria of our dream. 1, I pledge my commitment to the emergence of a new Nigeria, recognizing that greed and avarice are a cancer that eats its own host to death, that corruption ultimately kills not only the victims, but also the perpetrators, and that unless we change our course, we are bound to end up where we are headed. 2, I pledge my commitment to the emergence of a new Nigeria, recognizing that lies, manipulation, and political subterfuge have never and will never nurture a people, and that thievery, robbery, and roguery, by whatever name else it is called, when it becomes king and emperor in a land, that land rots, and that when hooliganism and banditry get into high places, the superstructure soon comes crashing down. Finally, I pledge my commitment to the emergence of a new Nigeria, recognizing that where lawlessness becomes the norm and illegality becomes the rule, the nation collapses. That righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to a people, and that where there is no vision, the people soon perish. So help me God. Sure that the 2 hands every child comes into the world are put to use. That is leadership. Now, the whole point I made throughout my presentation is that leadership misadventure, leadership debauchery leads to national ruination. And so perhaps what we should be working towards seriously is our leadership recruitment processes to ensure that we put the right pegs in the right holes. Before now, actually, since the beginning, we have not really had the right kind of leaders, especially from the time of the 1966 coup till now. We need to begin to groom people from nursery school, primary school, for leadership. The whole world now, the developed world, is in crisis because they are suffering from population decline. The riots they had in England last month, part of the reality that is beginning to dawn on them is that the natives of England are losing out in population and the immigrants are taking over. So they are now beginning to appreciate France is bribing people. Belgium, Italy, they are bribing people to have children. Japan today is bribing people to have children. And I'm saying, I am a universalist when it comes to population in the world. I say, who says that the 220 million Nigeria must be stuck in Nigeria under our terrible kind of leadership? Why wouldn't the people of Nigeria, why wouldn't 10, 20, 30 million Nigerians migrate to other places the way the Britons migrated to other parts of the world when they had bad leadership, when under King Cromwell, Emperor Cromwell, a lot of the people who went to New England, they ran away because of bad leadership. And then they set up New England in the US. So who says that Nigerians should be stuck here under bad leadership and die here? If you watch from the air and look down, there are no boundaries. These boundaries are artificially created. It is the white man that came here and put boundaries that I cannot go to Benin Republic or I cannot go to whatever. When they were in difficult circumstances, they traveled everywhere and settled where they wanted to settle. So for me, those of us who are educated, those are things we should be looking into. In 2008, I worked in a German organization for 1 year, and I was on the desk talking about immigration and how unjust the immigration policies of Europe and America are to Africans. Because when they were in trouble, they were able to go everywhere. We are in trouble now, and we are not allowed to go anywhere. That's on the one hand. On the other hand is to say that the efforts of the Rule of Law Development Foundation, I commend it very much. And the little efforts that all of you are able to do and the rest of the agencies, civil society groups are doing, very commended. Agaba said, we cannot do much without leadership. As the young lawyer who said he was self-employed, as he said, how much can you do in this country and excel and achieve your potential, your fullest potential, if you have the kind of apology we have as leaders? If you have the kind of people that serve, a lot of people who serve in the civil service, I mean, you apply for something. Recently, I applied for something in a government agency, something that can be done within 24 hours. It has taken 3 months. So without good leadership, you cannot do anything. So even if you have one child, as the last person said, without good leadership, you cannot achieve much. So let us all invest in leadership formation. And leadership formation, I mean from nursery school to the level of the presidency. Let us all invest in leadership formation. Nigerians are very smart people. Today, everywhere in the world, they are looking for doctors from Nigeria. They are looking for the nurses from Nigeria. Never mind a few scandals of a few criminals. But go to some of the top hospitals in the UK, in France, and whatever, and the doctor that will answer you will be a Nigerian. So Nigerians are heavily gifted, but they have been abused. Their talents have been abused. They have been punished by punitive overlords that we have had as leaders. And that is what we need to deal with. We need to check out these nincompoops that find themselves into positions of leadership and bring people who have the sense of compassion for the people, the sense of the common good, who have it, to make them leaders so that our country will make progress. And I assure you, and I'm ending on this note, if we get good leadership on the national level and on the state level, 5 years is enough. 5 years for Nigeria to be transformed. If we get good leaders. Nigerians are heavily talented ingenious, creative, that we can go anywhere. Many of us who studied outside, I studied in America with a lot of Americans, and they were nowhere near me when it came to my grades. They were nowhere near me, and many Nigerians are on top of their classes when they have opportunity to go out. So why are we not excelling here? Bad leadership. What must we do about it? Groom people to be good leaders, and Nigeria will be transformed within 5-10 years. To the glory of God. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the effort you are doing. JB, thank you for your efforts. God bless.